Well, I'm now joined by Charity Right CEO and advisor working with the UN's Agency for Refugees, Sajjad Mahmood. Sajjad, very good of you to join us here on Utter UK.
Thank you for having me, Bill.
Many richer countries are scrambling to deal with epidemics of their own. And so is there a fear that by the time they get a handle on it, we'll be too late to help others?
100%. I think the timing here is key. And I think that was in your report earlier that the funds that have been pledged, they need to be released immediately so we can deal with the food crisis in other parts of the world before those crises evolve and ultimately we end up spending more to resolve some of those issues.
So the money is there, it should be released, but of course, what about the food supplies themselves? What about that? Is there plenty of it available?
I think obviously one of the main reasons that we're going to be going into a food crisis, and I think we're going to be going into a food crisis regardless, it's just the scale of the food crisis that we'll be able to manage. One of the key reasons we're going to be going into that is because some of those ports are closed and some of the countries exporting to other smaller countries, some of that has stopped now. So I'll give you an example of a place like Sudan, which you mentioned in your report. In Sudan, 80% of the people rely on agriculture. Slowing down on the ports for bringing in key seeds, bringing in fertilizer, is going to have a detrimental effect on their crops eventually, and obviously 80% of the country will be affected like that. I'm sure you're aware that India at this moment in time has, many of their population relies on agriculture. Also, it has a 14-day quarantine on any ships coming into the country, which no doubt will have an effect on the poorest people and the farmers that are usually looking after themselves and their family.
Are there other countries that worry you as well, that perhaps are going unnoticed by the general public as such?
Yeah, I think a lot of the conversation, and especially with the numbers that you've predicted, that like the UN has predicted, a quarter of a billion people. 320 million students, children that would normally go to school to get maybe their only hot meal of the day, or in some cases their only meal of the day, as schools are suspended around the world. And India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Sudan, all these have large-scale free school feeding programs, all of which are affected now. So I guess, like any sort of disaster, whether it's a flood, it's an earthquake, or whether it's a pandemic like we're seeing at this moment in time, children are the worst affected. And we're seeing that approximately 320 million children will be losing out on a school meal.
And, of course, your charity advises the UN on refugee issues. What are the challenges now facing refugees?
Unfortunately, there are many challenges affecting them. The countries that we're working with the UN in places like Sudan, for example, we try to work with the refugees to make sure that we can break the cycle of poverty by providing education. And for me, this is the one thing that has really driven our organization over the last 6 or 7 years. And it's something that continues to do that. So it's horrific when you hear the news and you find that millions of children, almost 500 million children will be out of school without a school meal. This is not going to have an effect for just a short-term, but long-term effects. Children that miss out on school meals today will probably not get an education, and if that means a long-term result, it means that billions will be in poverty for next to 10 to 15 years, which means we miss out on those SDG goals that we set out a while ago.
Sajjad, we wish you all the best with the work you're doing at the moment. Thank you very much indeed for talking to us today. Sajjad Mahmood.
Thank you very much.